Here is a little extract from Kid Normal and the Final Five. In this chapter, the Super Zeros, our heroes, and their teacher, Mr. Flash, are in a deserted, creepy school on a secret mission. There are no spoilers in this, but it's a little bit of adventure. And it's part of chapter 14, The Curse of the Flying Wombat.
Okay, hang on. Before we continue, what do we need here? What about Mr. Flash?
Mr. Flash.
We need Murph, Billy. I mean, basically everyone's in this.
Everyone's in this. All the favourite characters are in this.
You're going to meet all of our favourite characters in Kid Normal. Here we go.
The 5 Super Zeros, followed closely by Mr. Flash, peered around the corner into the reception area of the school. It was large and dimly lit, deserted save for a few chairs, a desk against one wall, and a wooden crate standing incongruously on the floor near the main doors.
I don't like this,
complained Hilda.
It's too easy. What's going on?
Nellie squeaked in agreement, and one of Billy's fingers inflated as their footsteps rang eerily in the silent space. There was a shuffling noise from up ahead and a muffled squeaking. Everyone froze.
What was that?
Whispered Murph, dropping into a combat-style crouch despite his total lack of any martial arts ability. It made him feel a bit better, though.
There's something here,
whimpered Billy, 2 more of his fingers ballooning.
Something creepy is here. I can feel it, but we're gonna die.
They ducked behind the disused computer desk and peered out. The scuffling and squeaking continued, echoing back from the silent walls.
Creepy, creepy, creeperson,
moaned Billy.
I hate this.
Murph shushed him with a hand, peering at the wooden crate. A flap was open at the end nearest to them, and inside he could make out 2 tiny points of light.
Look,
he hissed at Hilda, who was crouching beside him.
There's something there. It's a cat,
exclaimed Hilda. A fuzzy face gradually became visible in the gloom as the mysterious creature inched towards them.
It's a bat,
contradicted Billy.
Don't be silly,
countered Hilda.
What sort of bat walks on 4 legs? Worm, said
Murph suddenly.
What do you mean, worm?
Hilda asked.
That's the sort of bat that walks on 4 legs,
Murph replied, pointing. The animal was now out in the open, regarding them with its bright little button eyes and sniffling its nose adorably.
A wombat?
Said Hilda.
Well, that's something you don't see every day, unless, you're a wombat who runs a mirror shop.
There was a click from somewhere close by. The wombat crouched lower and began to quiver. Its eyes lit up an eerie red colour.
Oh no, now it's gone all creepy again,
wailed Billy.
What in the blithering blazes is this little fuzz muppet doing here?
Bulldozed Mr. Flash, stepping out into the open and walking confidently towards the wombat, which was now baring its surprisingly large teeth and making a noise that sounded a lot like
Sneak! I'm not entirely certain that's a good idea, Mr. Flash.
Hilda began. Cannon Mr. Flash back over his shoulder.
Don't be such a pathetic pangolin. I'll have this little pom-pom dealt with in 2 shakes of a lamb's.
But they never discovered which particular part of a lamb Mr. Flash thought would be the most rapidly agitated, with a rousing battle cry of... The combat wombat launched itself into the air and attached itself firmly to Mr. Flash's moustache.
Mayday! Mayday!
Spotted Mr. Flash as he staggered backwards, the wombat worrying at his facial hair like a terrier with a gravy-soaked sponge.
Get off of me!
Sorry, what?
Said Hilda, dithering nearby.
I didn't catch the last bit.
Get!
Roared Mr. Flash, lifting the wombat up slightly by the tail to leave his mouth unimpeded for roaring purposes.
It's off of me!
Oh, right,
said Hilda brightly.
Roger, Wilco, who wants to take this one? My horses are probably still a bit tired after their key retrieval mission.
I could have a go,
suggested Billy, screwing his face up.
No, Billy!
Yelled Murph quickly. They were already battling a berserk wombat. The last thing they needed was to be suddenly battling a giant berserk wombat.
I'll have a go myself,
decided Murph, looking around the desk for anything that might prove a useful anti-marsupial projectile.
Nellie, you make sure nobody else is coming down the passageway to attack us from behind. Mary, help her.
He told them. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw them dash back to the corner and take up defensive positions. Mr. Flash, meanwhile, was having a bad day. A crazed wombat was making a spirited attempt to gnaw his face off. His day was not improved when a large box of paper clips hit him squarely on the forehead.
Ouch!
Complained Mr. Flash, as best he could through a face full of wombat.
Sorry,
replied Murph.
My bad. I'll aim more carefully with the next one. Could you duck slightly, Mr. Flash? To the left a bit. That should do it.
Complained the wombat as Murph's next office-based projectile, a heavy dictionary, hit its wombatty posterior. It loosened its hold on Mr. Flash's moustache, enough for the teacher to wrench it off and throw it away from him as if it was an apple he'd just taken a bite out of before realizing it was on fire. The wombat skidded on the tiled hallway floor, red eyes glowing and claws scrabbling as it turned 180 degrees and crouched ready for another spring, sneeing like crazy.
Duck! It's coming round for another pass!
Bellowed Mr. Flash, for some unknown reason, talking about the wombat as if it was strafing them with bullets from an aeroplane.
Billy!
Yelled Murph.
I've changed my mind! Balloon this!
He had found his best desk-based weapon yet, one of those massive staplers, the ones you use when you really want something to know it's been stapled and darn well stay stapled. He launched it into the air towards Mr. Flash.
Gotcha!
Replied Billy, diving forward and concentrating on the stapler. Squealed the wombat, gnashing its teeth frantically. It jumped straight for Mr. Flash's face in what could have been quite a horrific scene. Not at all suitable for the target age group of this book. Went the stapler. Went the stapler as Billy's capability hit it, and it inflated to several times its normal size, still spinning through the air towards Mr. Flash's meaty, outstretched hand. Went the air through the wombat's wiry fur as it streaked towards Mr. Flash. Went the giant stapler as it connected with Mr. Flash's hand in a perfect catch.
Have a slice of pain pie, fuzz buckets.
Went Mr. Flash as he swung the stapler like a giant metal baseball bat. Important note, no wombats were harmed during the writing of this book.
Ka-clomp!
Went the stapler as it connected with the wombat.
Ouch! That really, really hurt quite considerably.
Went the wombat's internal monologue. Wombats are not the most aerodynamic marsupial. That honour belongs to the duck-billed platypus. But to give it credit, this particular wombat flew quite impressively, sailing through the air like a tennis ball, only a large brown hairy one with eyes, forming a perfect parabola until it came to rest in a large bin with a hugely pleasing rattle and squeak.
Let's go, before that wombat gets out the bin,
yelled Murph, the first and only time he uttered that sentence in his entire life.
Good.